march together to a common loftier goal.
Welcome back to another exciting conversation here on Effective Living. I'm Coach Ricardo Miller, and I've had to make some adjustments to my platform when it comes to focusing on personal development and give some attention to something that's incredible that's happening this month. You are about to hear all things Bohemian. I'm from the Bahamas, y'all, and y'all know I'm a proud Bohemian. And so over the past few days, we've been doing a series of talks with individuals who were born and raised and just celebrate all things Bahamian. And today, we decided we're going to continue the conversation. So I want to welcome to Effective Living for the very first time. We're going to be doing a series of conversations in the future as well. But I want her to know, hey, listen, it's Effective Living. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We want you to know. Welcome. Chantel Fox, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Man, I am doing wonderful. We've been talking for a while about having a collaboration. You have a couple of passion and commitment to helping humanity that I thought we need to connect. Tell our viewing audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I am Chantel Fox, and yes, that is a Bahamian last name.
Yeah.
And I was born and raised in Illinois, Chicagoland.
Mhm.
I come from a Bahamian background. My father is from the Bahamas. My mother is from Iowa. And they connected in college, married, and had 3 beautiful children from Illinois. And I now reside here in Texas, and I am an educator. So I'm a certified teacher in the state of Texas, teaching in the Mansfield area, and I teach math for 5th and 6th graders. So that is my primary profession. But I have plenty of passions, like you mentioned in my introduction. And I am a mother of 4 now. I just had a new big boy, and I have 3 daughters, and my husband here in Texas. And so my children and my family are definitely a huge passion for me. And that's like my first ministry right there. And education, of course. And then one of the things that I find dear to my heart is my business. I created called Eulexiology, and I can get into depth whenever you want me to expand on that. But that's basically educating the community about dyslexia, which is relevant to anywhere in the world. Any 1 to 5 people are affected by it, so it's very relevant in all areas of life. As a child to an adult to what you do as a profession or living or school. It's not just for elementary students that are in school. So I definitely want to educate the world, not just the community, but the world about what dyslexia is, so everybody knows how to move effectively, knowing about it. I am one of the founders of the 242 DFW groups here in Texas, in the Dallas area. And my passion was to also I like to connect people and gather with people. And with doing that, from meeting, putting a flyer out there and meeting 25 people to connecting over 200 people that are Bahamian background, is a pretty amazing experience that I'm a big part of. I'm also part of a nonprofit, to have been a part of 2 nonprofits. One was I Am Bahamas, that I am formally now a part of, but I definitely support. And I've created a new nonprofit with fellow Bahamians as well, called Creating Great Spaces. And I could definitely talk more about that as allowed. But that is mostly, we all have gray areas. And so the main purpose of that is making sure people in those gray areas are connecting to their personal and professional niche, so we can get them moving on out of that space. We all go through those transitions. So that's about it. That's me in a nutshell right there.
Well, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so you said your father made a commitment. You and I were talking before we went live. You said your father made a commitment, man. I'm going to educate my kids on all things Bahamian. And you were born and raised with the understanding what it is to be a Bahamian, or even following all of the development over the years of what's been exciting about the Bahamas. Let's talk about for a moment all things Bahamian and the pride and joy and the appreciation for the Bahamas that you have gained over the years.
Definitely. So we grew up in Chicago, and one thing, my parents were young parents, so they had all of us before they were the age of 24. And so it was very helpful to use family to help with the children. So um and my both of my parents definitely have something in common when it comes to family. So my dad will and my mom and dad will send us to the Bahamas for a month in the summertime, send us to Iowa for a month in the summertime to give them that 2-month break. And then in Christmas, they sacrifice, and I didn't know this as a child, but I learned, as I got older, that they sacrificed even buying clothes and furniture to make sure that we made it to the Bahamas for Christmas, which is a big holiday for a lot of Bahamians. But my family took it to another level. We celebrate in a different way. I don't know any other Bahamians that celebrate like my family does. We have theme nights where you're dressing up. We put the newest baby on top of all the presents. The presents cover the tree, and it's just an experience. We also, growing up in Chicago, there was a community of Bahamians there, and so we were a part of the Bahamian Association. So we would go to meetings. They would have their own bylaws. They have their own goals. We had Bahamian food. We had parties. We had ring play in the backyard. I knew what reggae and soca is. My daddy would dance with me from when I was a child to even now. If we were to go out somewhere and heard some soca music, we dance in. So the food, oh my goodness, I have to say that my heart is Bahamian. I feel like should have been living there all my life because I can cook just as well. Like there's no. I watched him cook. I love my daddy's food. I'm not trying to be biased. I just feel like Bahamian food is the best food in the world. So yes, growing up, I know how to eat a fish. I know I know the national anthem for the Bahamas. I just feel like he definitely made, and my mother was very supportive in making sure that we knew both of our families and our backgrounds. I can tell you the same information on my mom's side. So yeah, it was very intentional with bringing this up, and it's definitely something we want to make sure, me, my brothers, make sure that our children are cultivated in the culture as well. So we bring them over to the country as much as possible. They know their cousins. My children were there for months and came back with Bahamian accents. So it's very, very real in our family.
Nice, nice. So you're not afraid of a fish head,
Oh no. I can handle the whole fish. Don't let me underestimate you. I will definitely impress you with that.
Nice, nice. So let me say this. You said you've learned how to cook and Bahamian food. This time of the year, there's going to be a lot of eating. I
Oh yeah.
mean, this month is going to be a lot of eating. This month marks our 50th year of independence. The Bahamas is lit right
Oh
now.
yes. Oh yes.
It's over the top. All things Bahamian is out in full array around the globe, as a matter of fact. Let's talk about this. Over the years, you've got a chance to go and visit. You saw and have been a part of so many amazing things. That's Bahamian. What would you say that was really like one of the most impressionable things that you were like, you know what, that's pretty cool. Like going back to school in Chicago, but then having visited the Bahamas in the summer, you're like, that's a principle, that's a behavior, that's a way that I
Yes.
hold on to, and it's from my Bahamas side.
Yes. Well, I can say a lot of things to
Mhm.
answer that question, but a couple of things that come to mind is the respect. Growing up in Chicago, you could say what to whoever was talking to you, what, and it's just not respectful. And I learned very quickly to not say what.
Yeah.
to my elders in the Bahamas. But respect is big, and that's something I'm really trying to hone in on my children so they know the difference culturally. You don't, you know, how you move from place to place, you act certain different ways. So I appreciate my family teaching me a way to respect adults so I can speak to anybody respectfully anywhere I go. But one thing for sure is Junkanoo. Oh my goodness. Experiencing Junkanoo is different. I feel like nowhere in the world have I seen, and then they have carnivals and things like that, different places, but there's something different about Junkanoo that I feel like when you hear the music, it's in your soul. It's in your, it's you could feel it in your body. You like you just start moving. You don't know why you're moving, you're just moving. The vibrant colors, the different sounds, the way they drum in the cowbells, like that is just unique to us as a country, as a culture, and experiencing that. I grew up in the 90s, so I grew in, of course, Illinois, so Chicago. I went to the Chicago Bulls games, right? So coming to the Bahamas on a New Year's Junkanoo night
Uh-huh.
filled with people, and right above me, I can see Michael Jordan. Like,
Uh-huh.
that is an experience to remember.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, I think that that alone is, like, the main thing that sticks out to me when it comes to culture, and you like, there's nothing like it.
You talk about your passion and commitment for the Bahamas. I love it. I love it. I love it. When you think about something like that of Junkanoo, and now it's having such a global impact on the world because it's tourism is the Ministry of Tourism is making a commitment to have that Junkanoo experience moved around a lot
Yeah.
lately. I think they had Junkanoo at the airport not so long ago.
Yes.
Who would have ever thought? What's your thought on the global world experiencing our Junkanoo? What's your view there, and how important is that?
That's super important because of our country, we thrive off of tourism.
Yeah,
And so, and some people don't know what the Bahamas is about. I've had conversations and they just think third world country and huts. And
yeah,
it's like, what? There's so much more than that.
yeah,
What? So having that exposure to the world, they
yeah.
see something beautiful like Junkanoo, and they're gonna start feeling it and moving their body too. Like, what is that? And so them having that exposure will bring more attraction to the country. I think that's very resourceful. I think that was intelligent for someone to say, let's go to the airport, or let's go. I think that there was somewhere in Dubai, right? They were in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that was a national thing. I mean, not national, worldwide thing. So that, I think, just gives us more attention, and people are more curious and want to come and see what the Bahamas is all about.
Looking back at your time in the Bahamas, what moment you would say to our viewers you had to been there? I mean, like, what was it? Was it maybe going in the ocean? Was it a boat ride? Was it? You mentioned Junkanoo and the beat and how it really takes you into be like, why am I moving? Why? And you almost feel this automatic, but you had to be there. What memory comes to mind for you? You had to been there from a visiting the Bahamas or having been there in the Bahamas.
Well, I come from a very, like I mentioned, my family, we do things a little different from
Yeah,
what I've seen most of all in the Bahamas, but my maiden name is Jervis, and I don't know how many Jervises are out there in the world or in the country of the Bahamas, but we do things unique, I can say. And and most of the time my visits will be with my family, so I have to speak about what it is, that we do. But there was a time, maybe 10 years ago, we had a family reunion, and it was very, very intentional. We had um events, like I said, we do themes, things like that, show up with a white t-shirt and blue jeans, we're taking pictures. But my family does things in a way where we had rented a whole boat, and we went out to the ocean,
yeah,
and they blew up this slide, and like in the middle of the ocean, like I a little scary. 'Cause you don't know what's in the water, but it was the best time. We had the most fun. My children got to slide down into the ocean. It was a little scary because it was we didn't know what was in the ocean, but it was just like you just seeing everybody having a good time. Um, and so experiencing my family is one thing. No, that's like my biggest thing. Like what I like to take away from, or you had to be there. There's no way of explaining how we do things in my family unless you come and experience it. So I had a lot of people come experience it. We've had, can I go with you to the Bahamas? And they come. I worked at a school in Texas where there were international teachers, someone from Spain, my co-teacher, and he didn't know where to go for Christmas. So he was like, can I come to the Bahamas with you? And I was like, sure. I mean, come on. He came, he stayed with my family, experienced my family. And he said he's never had an experience like that before. He's never had food like that before. He's never met so many nice people. And then the water, being on the ocean, like there's nothing like the clear waters, just feeling healing from the water. That's just something I think all people need to experience, no matter what.
So good, so good. Here's I want to ask you this. You have a passion and a commitment for education. When did that come along? And what was the role of your parents in making sure, you and your siblings, got an education? Because it's one of those big things. Growing up in the Bahamas, we push education. You go to school, you learn, but then going overseas, even more so. My son often talks about at school. He would reference, my dad's from the Bahamas, and he's adamant about me, blah 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 blah. And so, what was that like for you, and how did that connect to this fact that now you're an educator and you have a passion for that area?
Okay, yes. I sorry, excuse me. I did experience school in the States and in the Bahamas.
Okay.
And so um I I actually struggled in school. So I'm an educator now and I'm teaching students and I see the struggle and I can relate to it. I struggled for many reasons. I mentioned dyslexia. That is one of my passions, teaching those who the community, the world about it, to educate them. And I also tutor students that have dyslexia. And so going through school, unknowing that I had dyslexia, because I didn't find out till my senior year in high school, it was a struggle for me, especially coming from the States and then coming to the Bahamas. I feel like they were more advanced in the Bahamas when it came to education. There's things I just didn't learn, I didn't know.
Okay.
The Bahamas didn't, Chicago, where I came from, did not have the greatest education system. And so transitioning from there to the Bahamas and transitioning back from the Bahamas to Chicago, it was a struggle for me. And also for my brothers. I don't know about my oldest brother, but I know for I'm the baby. So there's two big brothers. We went to a Thelma Gibson primary school, and that's in Nassau. And the one thing about that I definitely want to be able to touch base on this conversation is the resources they have. And so my brother needed a little more resources than I did. And there was something that just wasn't available in the Bahamas. So that was one thing my parents decided to go back to the States for, to make sure that, we weren't in the best education system. We did move into a space where we could have better education. And um, I saw who was inputting in my life and who was just there for the paycheck.
Yeah.
And so my passion started, or because I didn't like school, I didn't want to be there. But sixth grade was the time where I found some love in school. I found a teacher that really enjoyed my presence and made me feel confident about work and school, what I did. And if I didn't do it right, they were patient with me. And I wanted to when I decided to do education, which was in college, I said, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna do education. I wasn't going to go to college unless my parents, I'm like, I'm struggling. I need to have some type of support. So they tested me, and that's how I found out I was dyslexic. And so going into education, I wanted to be like that sixth grade teacher that sparked a light in me when it came to math. And now I'm a math teacher. And so it really is important to see how the events that happen in your life help you become the person you are today. And so, um, once I found out that I was dyslexic, I wanted to make sure that because I didn't know what it was. My mom didn't know what it was, but we did the research once we found out. And it's like, people really don't know what this is. And then as an educator, and I have students that I'm like, I need to make sure that they have the right resources in place for them too. And I feel responsible. So I'm going to make sure I communicate this to the parent, and the parents don't even know what it's about.
Right.
So it's like, I am going to make this a priority to make sure that I'm educating the community about what dyslexia is, because it's not anything really bad. It's actually, I feel like we were created because we're out of the box thinkers, and we're needed in this community. And so if we understand what it is that we need, then we can be who we are.
You know, it's interesting you said that. I think I was 35. I'm 47 now. I'll be 48 in October. I learned at about 35 that I was dyslexic.
Wow.
But had no clue why the struggle was so real.
It's so real.
And going through school, I mean, I struggled. But it wasn't until I was about 19, I went back to reading classes because I was like, I got to get past this. I went to academia, a center in the Bahamas that offered at the time reading classes for even adults. And I went back, and I remember sitting in my classes and starting the whole process again, trying to get help to develop my ability to read better so that I can advance in all things moving forward. But the struggle was real all along the way. And it wasn't until I was about 35, which was not so long ago, I started doing some research on the subject, just as you mentioned. And I learned, this is more common than I thought. I knew.
Very common.
There was a little light shame factor coming in on the idea that this was my struggle here, there. And then there were others who saw my struggle. And it's amazing how society is. Sometimes people will use your struggle against you because it's the thing that makes them feel more than
right.
And so for a long time, I walked my head down. Until I started to do some real in-depth study on dyslexia. And I'm starting to study human behavior and psychology and philosophy and all this stuff. And I started to realize, hold on, how people are made, that the greater the deficiency in one's life, the greater a skill in that of making that person phenomenal as well. So there's an offset. So, okay, you may struggle in this area, but now you need to make a commitment to find out where your greatness lies.
Oh, yes.
And it was not until then that I started to lean in on. So I'll be in meetings, and I was telling someone the other day, I said, I'm about to make a presentation, and this presentation could be made at any university, and those in the room will be at all. But a lot of what I would say today, I may not be able to spell the words.
Right.
and they looked at me like, I was like, I don't spell the best, but I read a book a week. I love learning. I'm committed to living what I've learned.
Yeah.
I'm committed to growing and becoming. And so I say, when it comes from being a thought leader, I feel as though at my age, I can run with the best of them.
Yes.
However, if you put me next to my age group and you were to test me from an elementary standpoint, I may be the last among 10.
Oh, yeah.
But if you put me among the best of thought leaders at my age, I would be above, in the group of 10, I'll probably be in the top 3. So
you'll be the top person.
Right? So listen to that. On one part, I'm very aware that I'm not super strong here, but that doesn't mean I'm not still committed to learning, even getting better in that area. And then I'm not going to allow my area of deficiency or the area where I struggle the most to hold me back from rising to the top. So I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the guy says, we're going to need you to do this. And I said, well, I'm not going to be able to do this unless you guys increase my budget to get me an assistant. And I realized a lot of the guys who I found out that are hugely successful, who deal with dyslexia, The difference is that they surround themselves with the people to assist them with their areas of deficiency that
Right.
actually covers them up, and they're now able to soar like anybody else. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this. Describe it. Give highlight to what some people have dismissed, but it is dyslexia, and a lot of people aren't looking at it, but the challenge is there.
Well, let me just say, as you were speaking, I had a lot of things come to my mind, and I just want to break down what eulexiology means, which is the business that I feel like God gave me. I was in the shower and I got out the shower and I wrote it down. Um, I had to look up the origin of the word. Words have power,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
You give a child a name because it's going to help them be who that name is, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, you have their studies about speaking to a plant, right?
Yeah.
Get two plants. My daughter even did this experiment. She got a strawberry, two strawberries, and was given one kind words and one
Yeah.
mean words, and this one rotted up.
Wow. Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
very powerful, just
Oh,
even to the things that are living, right? So
mhm.
we're living people.
Yeah.
And so I looked up the word dyslexia, and in a nutshell, in the Greek origin, it means bad with words. So we're telling people you have dyslexia. That means you're going to be bad with words. You can't read. You're going to be bad at reading.
Yeah.
And I just that didn't sit well with me. So I looked at the antonym of dys, which is dys
Mhm.
in Greek, and it's eu, which means good.
Yeah.
So that word alone has a story and an impact on its own. So I put the good back into the word. So you're going to be good with reading.
Yeah.
And I added the ology because is I feel like it's going to be a new study, and we're going to open and unpack new things that we didn't even think we could do because we're going to have positivity with my approach.
Yeah.
And so dyslexia is a neurological deficiency, they want to say, where you have problems with spelling words, reading words correctly. It's just processing and going in a different route in your brain than it would with someone without dyslexia. Someone without dyslexia, they see it, it goes straight to the part in your brain that says it, right? Or, language is learned. You don't just come out
Right.
speaking. They have
Right.
to hear. We have to use our senses to learn everything, not just we don't come out just talking. So that's what I feel like there's a eulexiology, and it's like an umbrella because there's so many things I want to do with it, with the positivity. But once you understand that it doesn't affect your intelligence, right? Someone who has dyslexia doesn't affect their intelligence. Like you said, you might have strengths in one area and a deficiency in just the literacy part.
Right.
But with effective teaching, right? Even with me teaching those who have dyslexia, and I'm someone who has dyslexia, I still struggle. I may read was as saw, or I might write down my words so fast I can't even read my writing. That's
Yeah.
called There's so many different aspects of dyslexia. There's a spectrum, just like there is for autism. Um, Other things that people have challenges with. And so there's like a extreme, severe, medium, mild forms of dyslexia. There's 8 different types of dyslexia. You'd have dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and those are dyscalculia has something to do with math, mixing up your numbers. I feel like there's multiple you could have multiple dyslexias.
Wow.
And so for me, I have I mix up numbers too. I have to slowly reread it. And one thing I try to teach those, and I don't just discriminate with young children and elementary students. Yes, I tutor them, but I've also had adults. And I had to just give them things that I have used along the way to help me get by and with research, because I don't like reading, but I have challenged myself knowing that that is a struggle for me. I have challenged myself to read the things that I'm passionate about, which is dyslexia. I listen to audiobooks. There's different ways to getting the information, but I intentionally try to turn a page because there's something about seeing it and hearing it at the same time. So that's just we learn different ways. I feel like I can just talk all day, Pastor Ricardo, about about what dyslexia is and how it affects different people. But you mentioned something about successful people that have dyslexia. That's one of the things under my umbrella is I want to interview people just like we're having one right now of people that are successful that have dyslexia because there is something that they are really good at and God created them for that purpose and that's where they're shining at. And so one thing is the mentality. This is one thing for sure. I've met adults that have been told they have dyslexia. Like I said, the word is powerful. They feel discouraged. They put their head down, right? Um, and they say, I can't do it. If it comes to reading, they can't do it. They won't do it, right? But it's a really, really, it takes, the mind is very powerful. So you want to make sure that you want to have the right mindset. I like to build people up at the beginning of my sessions. I want them to know that they're capable. I mean, if I was, it just takes some time and concentration. Give yourself grace. Take some time. So when I'm messing up my numbers and my words, and even talking to you now, my mind is thinking before I speak, because I don't want to mess up. But you have to give yourself grace. You have to accept what it is and make it your superpower versus the deficiency or something that's going to harm you from moving forward. You can get to where you're trying to go. You just have to, like you said, leverage those around you that have the strengths of the things that you don't have the strength in, because we all, as people, have emotions, we have strengths and weaknesses, and that's just true for every person. So I don't want nobody to feel like they're just you just in this small population of people, and it's a huge population. It's very common.
Yeah,
So
it really is. Let's talk about that for a moment. Having been raised in the Bahamas, and I was talking to my mother about it the other day, and she said, "Oh Lord, I wonder if they were to do a national test. It may be one of the most prevalent challenges of a lot of our students in the Bahamas. I think my last study, and I think you referred to it earlier, what, 1 in 5?
yes,
So 1 in 5, and she says she believes it's probably more. My question to you is, there's the shame. The shame. I mean, people who didn't know or have no clue that there is something going on that you can beat or learn to manage or go around to get to a better result, oftentimes throw their hands in the air and render, I'm just not good with schooling, and or education is not my thing. And it's because of one or two areas of difficulties when it comes to like dyslexia. What do you say? I mean, with Bahamas, we're celebrating independence. We're people we feel, we love, we serve, and we give back. But there are a lot of people who have potential to do great things,
right.
but the fight to get past the shame. I
Oh, yeah.
remember, let me tell you, I was 19 sitting down inside of a room that was for third graders. Okay? That lady put me in the room with third graders, and she wasn't trying to shame me. It was just like, hey, come on in here, we're going to go over this book. And when I was starting to read, when I was reading and I was counting those words, and those third graders who were in the room, they were there to learn how to read themselves, but they were laughing because as far as they're concerned, a 19-year-old guy looks like a man, right? And they're like, that man can't read, that man can't read. And so, do you know the strength, the level of determination? Not only was I in the reading classes on Saturday mornings, but I was also going through Toastmasters at the same time, sitting next to guys like Chester Cooper and Fran Windsor. Chester Cooper is the Vice President, Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas right now. And I was in Toastmasters with him, but I'm struggling. And I'm trying to keep up with a program like Toastmasters, sitting next to greatness, but then at the same time going on Saturdays and sitting in a class and feeling a little bit of shame, but I'm determined. How important is determination to get past the shame or what public perception of this issue is?
You said a lot of things that I like I said, my mind goes when you start talking, Coach Ricardo. So determination, you said that word. That is huge. And getting to the point where you are determined. Sometimes people look around themselves and they can use that experience to, for their advantage or to keep the shame. And that's why I think it's important to build the person up that I'm talking to continue teaching my message and preaching my message about eulexiology, because somebody's going to jump on the bandwagon. Somebody's going to see the difference that I'm making. Somebody is going to hear the positivity coming from it, the motivation from it. They'll be encouraged, inspired, and then they will start to do. So I had a student, a Bahamian student. He just turned 19, grade 10. He is having a problem passing his BJCs, and he's just it's and people reached out to me because they heard about me. They heard about, and it wasn't that publicly he may have his experiences, his shame maybe,
Yeah.
but he's privately meeting with me in his full self and with I need help.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to be able to advance, especially in the country where you need some type, you need this diploma. You need to be able to have at least this to be working here. And what are you going to do? So, and he sees the people, his friends working around him. That was his cry. That was his determination. I need to learn how to at least get through these tests so I can be able to support myself to be a man. I don't want to be here in my home with my family. I want to be on my own. So every individual person has their own story, their own. I can't speak for the whole world, right? Or the whole community, but all we have to do is keep preaching the message that is possible. And that's why I said mentioning interviews. If I have a platform where I'm interviewing you, one of the people I want to interview is Whoopi Goldberg. Best believe I'm going to interview Whoopi Goldberg. And you know what I'm saying? And how impactful that would be if they see more successful stories, then the shame will go away and the more confidence will be built inside of them and they'll be motivated by what they hear. Do you listen, Coach Ricardo, do you listen to motivational speakers?
All the time.
All the time. Are you a motivational speaker?
I am. Straight up.
It's just crazy. I went on a trip with my husband the other day and we just listened on the road trip motivational speakers. And it just does something to you. It makes you think, it makes you feel empowered. And so I think that if we are silent, then no one's going to move in that direction. But if we continue to preach our message and what we know for ourselves is true, and that it can be true for others that are struggling with the same thing, is going to be powerful.
I totally agree with you. Let's talk about this as our conversation really matures here, and I want to dive into some things before we're done. Okay. Education in the Bahamas. What do you say moving forward with terms like dyslexia and the importance of us making sure we pay a little bit closer attention to our kids? There's a lot to rejoice and celebrate about 50 years of independence, but you've had the opportunity to be in the school system. Yeah. Bahamas. What do you say to those who are educators and those who are aspiring to be educators on the importance of paying attention to the little things like that? Or is this child struggling beyond the behavior that is being expressed on the outward side? Mm-hmm. What's deeper? Hey, I remember raising my hands and going to the bathroom whenever it's time to read.
Is that a common thing? Because I get the same thing, and I would be gone the rest of the class.
Yeah, exactly.
I would go and help in the cafeteria. I will ask the principal. He knows I should be in class, but he'll talk to me. I'm like, oh Lord, I need to go to the bathroom.
But a lot of teachers aren't paying attention to avoidance. This is avoidance. What do you say once again to educators and aspiring educators, more specifically in the Bahamas, who during this time of celebration, hey, remember, the kids in your classroom and the kids that are coming up, they need teachers who are paying attention to things like this. What do you say?
Well, okay, so the children that I teach are a reflection of me. If they're not performing at a high level or at a level, like their grade level, then I look at myself. And so if someone is in the education system, I would pray and hope that they have some type of passion to not only inspire and move their children along with the knowledge that they need to be successful the next level, but even just have the pride that you represent me. So I have to take that accountability as a teacher to make sure that I do whatever I can to make sure you have everything you need to be successful, right? Yeah. And so just making sure that we vet the teachers that are going to have that passion, one. Two, the technology has changed from over the years. When I'm not that old, Pastor Ricardo. I'm just 38. I don't mind sharing my age. Mm-hmm. But I grew up in where technology grew so fast. I remember the cell phones being this big.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
My first cell phone I had when I was 18. My children now are 9, 10, 16, and they're like, the world is at their fingertips.
Yeah.
That's the same for even even though technology might be a little delayed when it comes to like sending money to someone here in the States from the Bahamas, right? That you have to go through a process or send it through PayPal.
Yeah.
But we still have the internet. When I lived there, I was able to go on the internet and Google something and it comes up on my phone. So there is a, a, access to with technology to information that we can't use the excuse we don't know about it anymore, right? And so one thing I would just pray and hope in along the way and in the future that even in the country of the Bahamas, we have things that are in place, right? They stuck in a way, some way, in some form, but there's also so many great leaders coming out of the Bahamas. But we want to make sure that we're still emerging with things that are changing in the world. And so if they were more open to receiving something like Ulexiology, I can come in and educate the schools, and it doesn't have to always be for a fee. I just have a passion so much that I just want to come and inform you, because no one is, they see a child struggling. Maybe they'll let them go to the bathroom because it's just so challenging because they don't have the resources to know how to help this child. You know what I mean? So just making sure that like even this conversation and it being surrounded around everything Bahamian, that they'll see that there is something more than uh, just what they're doing right now, that there's still resources out there. There's a way to tap into technology to help you educate yourself so you can be effective for the children that they teach.
So good. I have a team that goes to Bahamas every year. We do a number of things throughout all of the schools in New Providence and Freeport and a number of other islands. 2024, would love to partner with you and the organization. I think it would be really cool for us to almost dedicate 3 to 5 days just
Yeah.
on subject. And I know some other prominent individuals who have learned how to live beyond dyslexia and excel and are doing extremely well. And I think, like you mentioned, maybe having that panel conversation on a national level in the Bahamas will help birth a greater level of appreciation for the teachers who are aware that this is a challenge and that they will put in the work to make sure they assist those kids. As we bring our talk to a close, we're going to do this again. As I
Oh,
mentioned
yes.
at the very opening, I told you that I wanted to have a couple of conversations with you because I noticed that you had this passion, and I had never met anybody who spoke on the subject. I have the last 5 years I've been doing my own underground study, and
Yeah.
I told my wife, I said, I've been speaking for 20 years. I've traveled the world. I've had the privilege of speaking on a lot of major platforms. And I said, it was not until I heard your platform came about that I went public about dyslexia.
Oh, what? Oh,
Yeah,
that is so what like that's inspiring.
yeah, it was not until I was like, I think I'm gonna go. It was like almost just, it was more like beat it privately, but never mentioning it. Beat it, you know what they say, but now you know what you're gonna be. And then I said, hold on, what's the shame in the game? Let's go ahead and help some people.
Yeah, no, I had the same experience. I had a lot of people like even use it against me, like that's your disability. That's your and I would just be like, I don't even, but I put like once I started talking about Ulexiology was when I publicly came out, and that was it birthed in 2020.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
when it came, and that's me publicly coming out telling the world that it is.
It's
I
real.
was past 30 something, right? I just,
Uh-huh.
like you said, in the dark, you was doing your own research and like I relate to this, right? But it did something to me. It was more empowering to come out and say it. And now I have no shame in it. And I'm so happy that I did that. I'm so happy that it did that for you,
Yeah.
because like I said, is more once you start educating people and talking about it, they relate to it and they want to they find some relevance in their own life or who they've been, someone close to them. And it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for sharing that with me.
No, you're welcome. I'm sharing it more now because one, I realize how important it is, and I have a coaching client a couple last year I think who joined my coaching program, and he mentioned, hey, he said, well, my disability is dyslexia. I said, do you know you're the first person I've ever heard own that as I know it's described as a disability. But I said, you're the first person I've ever heard actually owned it. Like you're owning it. And I said, I think it's hurting you. I think it's hurting you because you're owning it to a degree that you are not giving it a chance. You're giving yourself a chance to live beyond it. And I said, you know how many people have the license plate that says disabled, but they're telling themselves, I'm going to drive a car. I'm going to participate in sports. Hey, I'm going to start a business. I'm like, they have the bona fide license plate,
Yeah.
but and whatever that disability is, they're choosing to live in spite of.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You can allow the label to be what the label is, but that doesn't mean God can't call you to defy the label. And so that's been a part of my passion lately.
No, I am so happy that you shared all of that, like that. What when I think of like me and my journey, um, I was happy to come up with something that I, like you said, all your years you hadn't heard anybody, like that inspired you to say and to own it for yourself. But you want to give back to the world something that they don't have. And so
Correct.
I feel like my approach and my passion behind it is something different and unique, and allowing me to be able to share this on your platform is beautiful. So thank you.
Hey, you're welcome, and we'll be back. We're going to do some really exciting things, more specifically with this subject. But let's close out and talk all things Bahamian once again. The Bahamas is celebrating its 50th year of independence.
Woo!
And is fast approaching.
Yes.
Guys, be proud Bahamians. Chantel is committed to still being an ambassador in all of her different forms. I love the fact that you're like, hey, I will be a part of this group. I'm going to form this group. I'm going back to the Bahamas. And let me give a salute to your father who made a commitment to pass it on.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the same with my son, and I'm trying my best to help him to stay connected to our roots. And so let's what do you say to Bahamians abroad in regards to staying connected? In closing, I want you to challenge them that they have a roots, they have a history, they have a country, they have a heritage that they can be proud of.
Yeah.
What do you say to them about making sure that they keep hope alive, keep the passion and commitment to staying connected? What do you say about that?
Well, I think it's very important to just go and visit the country, visit home, go experience the people, not just the tourism side. Go in the water,
Yeah.
get your feet in the sand, go eat some conch salad, go find out where your family is from. What family island are you from? I have yet to do that. I want to go to Eleuthera one day. That's where my Grammy side is from. So I just feel like they're in and get connected. So a lot of people didn't know that there was something in Dallas even created. You came and joined the group, right? And
Yeah.
so um there's Bahamians everywhere. There's some in Canada. There's some all over the nation, and you just have to tap in, find them, and connect, and be able to experience the food, experience the accent, just the way we talk. It's important. Sometimes I didn't even know growing up in Chicago, my dad would say things. So this is how we talk in our house. And if I say them at school, they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, oh, y'all don't say that. so, so it's important to even know the lingo, right? How Bahamians talk and how to relate in that way. So it's important, and you know what's so really cool about living abroad and here in the States is that there's a lot of it's yes, we have us as the common people around us, but there's so many people that are um in the platform where they're actors and basketball players. And so if there's any way in my mind, I'm thinking we have to all connect somehow. We have to get together. We have to have some type of movement, not just here in Dallas, but that is like all Bahamians in the nation. Yes, we are celebrating the 50th. And so I anticipate those everywhere in all forms of professions are some way gathering or connecting with the Bahamian culture, whether they're coming home. I'm a little jealous. My dad, my mom, and my oldest daughter are going on the 6th through the 16th. And so, they're going to be in the thick of everything, right? And I'm just a little jealous, but while they're there, I'll be here and still celebrating and connecting with everybody here. So just try to tap into the roots and find people that have the same commonality.
Excellent, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard our conversation, all things Bahamian. Dyslexia, we added that in there because it's a subject both of us are passionate about. I was introduced to this subject matter on a whole nother level when I met Chantel and I saw what she was doing. And I told myself along the way, I'm going to get connected. Now, the crazy thing about it is what made me not connect during your events, which is in October.
Yes.
It actually clashes with my week of activities that I've been doing for about 7 years now in the Bahamas. And so I've noticed it both times. I think you were hosting something.
I have to move my date because I need you there. I need you there, Coach Ricardo. You got to tell me what days are you available in October and it's on that day.
I know, because I looked at the dates the last 2 years. I'm like, I'm going to participate in that. I'm going to support that with everything I got. And when I look at it, I was like, oops, I can't.
Oh.
But we're going to talk through that. We're going to work through that.
Yes.
Once again, keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing. Thank you for your father doing such a phenomenal job. I would love to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, he's a good one to have him with.
And I love Chicago. I think you said he is in Chicago.
Yes.
I have some really good people there in Chicago. So we're going to do this again. Hey, enjoy your day. Let's celebrate the month. Happy Independence, Bahamas. Over the next few days, let's raise the roof and let's continue to be proud Bahamians. God bless you.
You too.